the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I support this bill. It's a welcome first step to cut student debt by 20% and ease the cost of living pressures for so many of them. But let's be really clear, it's only the first step. Our education system needs much bolder reform to better support all of those undertaking further studies so that they can play such a vital role in the skills needs that we know Australia has for the future. They will be the ones who boost our productivity. We hear a lot in this place about the value to Australia of our resources and everything else. Our most valuable asset is our people, and training and educating them has to be the #1 priority, and ensuring they have access to those opportunities is incredibly important. My office is full of brilliant young interns, passionate, driven, ambitious, caring, but they're struggling. They're juggling degrees, casual jobs, unaffordable rents and high HECS debts. And their story is not unique. It's the norm for students across Australia and young people. A university education should challenge you intellectually, not cripple you financially. We know this bill is very much welcome when it comes to reducing the debt by the 20% as of 1 June 2025, and that does provide an average savings of some $5,500 for students. It does wipe $16 billion in total student debt. So I do commend the government for that, and by raising the payment threshold, it gives young people in particular starting out the opportunity to get to better employment before having to start repaying it. And that lower repayment rate does indicate a saving per year. So these are meaningful cost of living reliefs for millions of Australians. But let's be clear, the timing of indexation is highly problematic. It is unconscionable that the ATO can withhold during the course of the year the ongoing payments, the HECS repayments from an ex-student, without applying it to the debt prior to indexation. The student does not have the benefit of the use of those funds, but the ATO does. So there has to be something done about the date of indexation. It is unconscionable that in every other sector of our lives it is possible to apply repayments in real time, but for some reason it simply can't be done in relation to HECS repayments. So while this is positive, there is still so much more that needs to be done. In fact, I was in this parliament under the 46th parliament when the Job Ready scheme was introduced by the Morrison government. I spoke out loudly against that because it was so fundamentally unfair to move the dial and to change the payment system, to try and pick winners in that way and impose on a whole cohort of students an absolutely unreasonable fee structure. The Job Ready graduate scheme is a completely fouled policy. It doubled the fees for arts, humanities and social work. It unfairly targeted critical degrees and pushed students into higher debt. Personally, I have 2 degrees. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Media and Communications and a diploma in law. And to me, it was unconscionable that we were so changing the dial and making it so much more difficult for students to achieve their goals, to be able to contribute back and make their degrees so much more expensive. The Universities Accord recommended it be scrapped, but the government has not yet acted. And so before there's too much patting on the back and congratulating oneself for this move, it also needs to focus on the rest of the recommendations to make sure they are enacted without delay so that they're not absolutely crushing more people. There's no doubt that the Job Ready graduate scheme entrenches inequality, devalues democracy, it's enriching disciplines, and it should be repealed. As I said, the other issue is that indexation of 1 June. The repayments are held throughout the course of the year and then not applied in real time. When I've taken the time during the election campaign to explain that to people, people are shocked and horrified. All too often they don't realise that is what's happening. And so if the government really wants a big tick of having acted on this generational inequity and the issue of student debt, then it has to address the issue of timing of indexation. The ATO says it lacks the resources to fix it. With respect, I don't buy it. When there is a will, there is a way, and it's a question of prioritising that aspect, the resourcing and correcting this design flaw. The university governance is an issue that is brought to bear for me quite frequently. The integrity we need in the university structures, and it's all too relevant and obvious here in Canberra because of the situation with ANU. I've had a lot of contact from students at ANU at the moment in relation to the changes at ANU and the impacts this is having on students. The ANU restructure is gutting courses, overworking staff and sidelining students. External consultants are making decisions instead of students and academics. Education quality must be paramount. If the university needs to make cuts or changes, it must not be at the expense of students. Now, we know the funding gaps are an issue. Government contributions per student are down 6% since pre-GRG levels. The universities over-rely on international student fees, which is problematic. But we saw prior to the last election and in the last term of government that using of international students as a political weapon to try and point score, and in the process undermined our university sector and their fiscal sustainability. So, all in all, we have to be focused on young Australians and how they are facing this rising debt and fewer opportunities. We have to make sure there is adequate public investment in higher education to meet the skills demands we know we have. So, to summarise, we need to repeal the job-ready graduate scheme. We need to fix the help loan indexation. We need to lift the youth allowance and improve student welfare. It's quite interesting that in opposition, Labor talked a lot about raising the rates, student allowance, youth allowance, but we have seen minimal changes to that during the 47th Parliament, and it's really urgently needed that it be addressed in this Parliament. We need to secure that long-term funding for universities, and we need to make student housing more accessible. There's no doubt the Treasurer is heading into his productivity roundtable. Well, our best asset are our people. We need to make sure they are ready, that we have the future skills for the workforce needs we know we have. 90% of new jobs in the next 5 years require tertiary education. So we need a robust and healthy university sector to make sure we can deliver on that. We know we face shortages in teaching, nursing, engineering and climate transition sectors, to name just a few. We must invest in education now, or we risk falling so short as a nation. And there is a global race on for talent, for skills. We need to make sure we are at the forefront of that race, to make sure we attract the smartest and brightest here, but we retain them as well. Not only can we educate them, but we need to make sure they have those opportunities here. So, as much as I commend the government for this bill, we need further reform, not just relief. We need to be bold, ambitious, reform to build an equitable, future-ready education system. Students deserve more than just short-term relief. They deserve a fair, accessible and supportive education system. There's a lot we need to address regarding education reform and cost of living relief. And unfortunately, that's not going to all be allowed during this debate. I have to raise also just the process for this bill. Whilst I agree that this is urgently needed and I want to see this relief flow to young people and all that it will apply to as fast as possible, I cannot commend the process the government has followed in this, because we have passed this legislation and now members of the House are being given the opportunity to make a statement in relation to this legislation. This means the government is at risk of making a mockery of this Parliament, of essentially using its numbers to just flick things through without proper debate. It means we curtail second reading debates and consideration in detail. And then we are given the luxury of being able to come and make a statement in relation to legislation that will impact so many people in our communities. So I urge the government to be mindful of its procedure. So many new MPs in this place come in shiny and full of ambition, full of good principles of coming to this place. Let's make this a chamber of debate where we genuinely look and investigate and look at legislation. If the government needs more time to do its job, then allocate more sitting days to this place so that we do provide the scrutiny and debate necessary for good legislation for the benefit of Australia.